April the 11th, the Ukraine Media Center is on air. Your anchor is Svetlana Cheperenko. We are briefing you on the topic of Semper Primus. The representatives of the missing persons are demanding a dialogue with the state. Tetiana Hoidyk is the coordinator of families of captured and missing of the 95th Air Assault Brigade. Yevhen Didkivskyi was the former POW. Oleh Slobodianyk is a representative of the coordination headquarters for the treatment of prisoners of war, will be joining us in a couple of minutes. Volodymyr Horin is the head of the Civic Department of the Airborne Assault of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Olena Bieliachkova is the coordinator of the group of the families of prisoners of war at the Media Initiative for the Human Rights. Before we begin, I would like you to watch the video to set the tone. Dear families of our heroes, we know that every day you live through is a fight, is a hope. This is the silence on the phone that makes your heart bleed. But you're not alone. We are standing by. Your husbands, brothers, families, they are the warriors that have been defending the future of our children. Every person missing, every person that has been prisoners of war shall not be forgotten. We are fighting with you. Their deed will not be erased in time. Their pain is in our heart. We will not rest until all our brethren in arms come home. Every step, every fight is for them. We feel their pain. Their courage encourages us. Well, they stand, we stand, and Ukraine stands. You are part of our bigger military family. Your hope is our hope. We will be standing by you, supporting you. Everything we're doing our level best to bring our brethren-in-law back home. Hold on, we are strong and we shall prevail. You have heard very important messages, important for the families, important for the prisoners of war. Olena, may I start with you? Could you brief us on the idea of making up this video? Welcome, everybody. Why this video has been made? Since the very day of the full-scale invasion, we've been actively engaged in the dialogue with the families from different units, the airborne assault units and their relatives are very active in setting up this communication. Tetiana has turned to us saying that families must be active. The families must also keep fighting. Our team and Tetiana have come together to discuss what our further steps could be as a media initiative. Families have grown self-independent, they have grown into the associations. But what is needed is another step taken to make our position known. Olga Reshetilova, the Commissioner for Human Rights, has supported this idea in support of the airborne assault forces. They have also responded positively. They green-lighted the whole idea, and Star Media Light has come up with this high-quality product. Of course, we appreciate the airborne assault forces and their efforts. Their support is very important for the families of these warriors. So our message is to remind everybody of the airborne assault forces personnel who have been taken prisoners of war or have been missing in action. There are a lot of them, meaning that there are more and more families and their loved ones. We want to be a driver for them, their voice in their fight. And the command, of course, is taking part in this effort for our soldiers to be understanding that they are not left alone, because airborne assault forces are very active in defending this country. So the message of this video is to say thank you for every stakeholder and those who have participated. Tetiana, may I turn to you? The families of the missing and the prisoners of war are doing so much important work. You support each other. Do you know exactly how many paratroopers are prisoners of war and how many of them have come back home? First of all, I would like to appreciate Olena's effort. I would like to thank you for this opportunity to share with you our pain and to talk about airborne assault forces. Statistic that I have deals with the 5 brigades. Perhaps we will someday unite ourselves into a NGO. Statistics is sad. Those missing personnel that we have are these. 27 prisoners of war are not separated in. As for the other brigades, we have statistics as relates to the last exchange, 13 of them. 49th Brigade, 22 personnel have been released. We have also no statistics on other brigades. As for the 80th Brigade, the saddest statistics, 18 have been already authorized as missing in action, so altogether they have 8 personnel released. Why is that statistic so sad? From your standpoint, what can be done in a better way? We are trying ourselves to figure out how to do this process better. I am not questioning the body that are engaged in prisoners of war swaps. I understand that their workload is very tough. It has to do with the moral issues. We know people that they are dealing with. However, we are trying to figure out what the response might be. We've got a lot of personnel missing in action as far as the airborne assault forces are concerned. I don't know the answer to the question why airborne paratroopers are not being exchanged. This is why I thought it makes sense to come together this day. We are all grown-ups. I have been suffering for almost 4 years. I don't know anything about my brother, but I am ready to hear whatever the truth is, however that truth bitter might be. I want to know the truth. People who are missing go through a couple of stages. My first stage was that I was happy that my brother has not died. And then I was thinking to myself, and I think it relates to a lot of people elsewhere, we would come to the coordination headquarters. The primary way of doing is to search for the missing personnel. And another issue, which is very important, and it is important because it's an open secret that the community of the relatives is growing day by day. As a lawyer, I receive a lot of requests from other brigades and families from those missing. Thank goodness we know where people can turn to. But what they're interested in is to get their loved ones back. They're not applying for some monetary compensation. That's another issue. What they're focusing on is how to bring their boys back home. We have Oleh here, and it's good that he has made it here. We are ready to listen. We are ready to hear. We know what the complexities are, but we also believe in and trust the authorities that are searching for the missing and those who are engaged in the prisoners of war swaps. We do believe that you will find out the mechanisms that will allow for the paratroopers and assault forces to come back. Your wife and you yourselves, you know how much work we have been doing. The only thing we are trying to ask the headquarters to do is to hold these meetings more often. I know that I will not hear anything good. For these 3 years, I have a lot to say, but those who are new in our family, for them, it's an important thing to have such meetings, to meet people who are engaged in the process of returning their loved ones. They want to know that there are methods and ways how to bring back the paratroopers. It's not a secret that the assault forces are understaffed and they need new personnel. The state must do everything it takes to encourage people to know that once you have joined the paratroopers, as my brother, he had been holding his ground for 3 hours, they have to know that the state will fight for you as you fight for this country. I want them, the authorities, to do whatever it takes and more than what it takes. You see, when the representatives of the government, for them it's just a job, and for us it's life. For every relative of the paratroopers, it's life. I remember one man saying that when I engage people, I look at their motivation and their integrity, and I want another issue to be taken on board. I want to hear that people will care for us when we go through these periods. I know we are difficult people to talk to because we are emotional people. The girls from the 95th Brigade know about a guy who has been prisoner of war for 2 years. And the recent information she had received was that her son's nose had been broken and he's suffering, and she doesn't know why her son is not swapped. We want to know why such a sad statistics relate to the airborne assault forces. I know that we wish something that can't be done. The biggest swap, I think it was 21 paratroopers had been swapped, but we did a colossal piece of work. We did everything we could. And again, perhaps, and I will appreciate people who have joined us here from the coordination headquarters. Can I say your name? I appreciate your job. I know that I attack you. I know that I come with the questions that are not that easy, but I seem to be an adequate person. He would listen to me. He would organize some ways of communication. So we appreciate that. So what we are asking the authorities is that we've been talking to the civil and military department at the Ministry of Defense. We want to be heard. We want to be heard by the coordination headquarters. You know, we are overwhelmed with emotions. There are so few people. For all the assault brigades that I have mentioned, you know, it leads me to conspirology here. I know that they are unsubstantiated, but we do ask you, the dear people from the coordination headquarters, be open with us. We are ready to listen to you. We want to communicate with you. Thank you, Tetiana. Perhaps we will give a floor to the representatives of the coordination headquarters. Yevhen, can I turn to you? You have been in Russia, prisoners of war in Russia. When did you come back? And would you share with us, as a paratrooper, did you experience some special treatment? Thank you, and glory to Ukraine. I was a prisoner of war for almost 2 years, minus 1 month. I was with the mission, and I came back last January. And of course, for some way, in some way, I was lucky because I was on the register of the prisoners of war swap, and I came back home. As for the specific treatment, as for the personnel that deals with the paratroopers, my stand is this. One, I am saying, and I shall say that forever. When you are a prisoner of war, you understand one important thing. The way they hate us, as a nation, it begs words. When I was in captivity, I saw a lot of different people, but military are treated perhaps very specifically. As for the paratroopers, I shall say the treatment is much worse. If we weigh the opportunity, either you are captured or you commit suicide, I would opt for the latter. I understand it's not about you personal, it's about airborne assault soldiers. It has to do with every Ukrainian serviceman. The specifics of treatment of the personnel that are related to the airborne forces. The specifics is there. If I were to share with you, it would take a lot of time. But my point is the treatment is much tougher, is much more specific in some ways, and it is demonstrated in a way that you are treated day in and day out. Thank you, sir. Let us go back to the topic of our brief. When you were in captivity, did you know anything about the actions of the families of the prisoners of war? My answer is this. While you are there, you are completely in an information vacuum. If you receive any information, it's very little, and you will know who are the sources and what are the sources of the information. And as far as the information, whether the government is working on getting you back, no, you don't receive anything of that kind. It was, I remember, that I was for more than a year. The only information we received was that Ukraine doesn't need you. You have been left behind. You are not needed by the aggressor state here. And they would say, we don't know what to do, either to shoot you or to what to do. This is the rhetoric we have heard. Otherwise, there's one way of hope that 2 times over my captivity, I had an opportunity to write letters. One of these letters was received by my family, but as for the response or any information, whether it was sent out or whether it had been received, I didn't know anything about it. You are, to reiterate again, in an information vacuum. After you made it back to Ukraine, I think you realize the scope of work that the NGOs and the government are doing. What do you think? Such events on all the public awareness, protests, street actions, do they help to bring boys back home? I will tell you the following. My expertise, and I think it relates to the experience of all my brethren-in-law in arms. Once you are there, the only thing you have is to hope and dream up while receiving information from your enemy. And again, their message is you are not needed, either by us, neither by your country. You mentally go through very difficult time. Mentally, psychologically, you're very stressed. You're in a dire straits. And it's only through your prayers or through your hopes, plus the support of those who are there in captivity behind you, you try to hold up in a hope that you will be swapped. Once you have made it back, you understand what kind of colossal work has been conducted, including the events not by government, by the work of the loved ones, by the families, by the NGOs, and you realize that, thank God, you have returned to the place where you are loved and where people did a lot to make this happen. Perhaps these people are restricted in their capabilities, but one way or the other. But the fact that you know and are aware of what had been done for you, because while you are there, you sometimes are so despondent, and you sometimes believe that you're not needed. You don't know whether Ukraine is there, what kind of state Ukraine is in, and only after you made it back, you are aware of the people, like people here, who, thank goodness, due to the efforts by state authorities, they are working to make sure that you come back and your brethren in arms come back, and it encourages you and gives you a lot of hope. Post factum, as my doctor told me, this is the borscht that is still being cooked, but now it's time to consume. Sometimes, it's a very difficult experience. Volodymyr, we've been touching upon the issue of communication. How does your brigade communicate with the families of the missing personnel? What do you do to support each other? Welcome and glory to Ukraine. I can assure you that every missing soldier, every member of the armed forces that is a prisoner of war is not a part of statistics. We understand that we have lost our warrior, the families have lost their brothers, fathers, sisters, and relatives. Every situation is unique, and the commander and the command in general try to figure out the circumstances, the environment, and then focus on gathering every possible piece of information. And we are doing our level best to pursue the investigation of the particular piece of land. They are interviewing the witnesses, and it is very important to gather as much information as possible right there after the event. There are things that will get lost. Personnel are transferred to other units, so information gathering, the primary information, is very important in our work. Following the information gathering, the command of a unit are informing the local military centers to figure out their status. He or she is missing in action, or they have been taken prisoners. Following that, we begin communication between the military unit and the families. All my commanders of the civil military cooperation department are very highly motivated people, and I will reiterate that they are not treating these issues as simple statistics, but as a part of our general fate and plight and problem to ensure that our warriors come back home. After communication has been set up, we generalize the whole information, and we communicate with all the structural units of the governmental bodies, with the security service and the civil military cooperation department. Wherever we can, we share the information we hold, and they share with us the information they have. So we put together a general database where that registers and takes care of all the missing personnel. As for the communication with the families, it's on the stable footing. We have telephone numbers of the family members, and the communication with the family members takes place irrespective of whether it's a weekday or weekend, or whether it's night or morning. It's taking place 24/7. My telephone is hot with the information from the families, and we are in constant contact with the family members 24 hours a day to reiterate, to reassure that the actions are being taken. The next step, as for the communication and the swaps, you will know that we have a new department at our Civil Military Cooperation Department. That unit is still being developed, but we are trying to engage in the dialogue with the guys who are released from the captivity. Perhaps you will know about our rehabilitation center in the Vinnytsia region. We communicate with all the hospitals where our boys are being treated to establish contact with them. And again, it's not about statistics. It's not about formalities. We are aware how important it is for a soldier to feel that he or she is not alone, that he and his family are part of our bigger military family. So our command and our commander are doing everything they can to ensure that every boy comes back home. Thank you, sir. Oleh, can I turn to you now? You had a question about the lack of effective communication with the headquarters. What do you think? Is this an effective form of communication? It's a problem of all of us. And the major factor is the human resource. To ensure communication, you have to have specialists. At the level of the state is trying to resolve this issue. Recently, we have heard something about a regional centers being open, regional centers being closed down. Unfortunately, I have to tell you the following. We don't have to bury our heads in the sand. The problems must be discussed. There are a lot of them. We can't claim that everything is just fine everywhere. We have to know the essence of all these issues. At the state level, a decision has been made that every region must have a representative of the headquarters. The Security and Defense Council has passed a decision to the effect that a better communication must be established with the families, and it is being implemented. There are some internal issues that are being resolved currently. The experience that we have had so far in the work of the headquarters here in the capital city, I believe it must be scaled up to every regional center. And we are doing everything we can here. The problem is there. And it is that currently the headquarters is planning the meetings for the early September, and to effect this, all those meetings and communications that must have taken place, of course, we cannot live up to those goals. So we are limited in our time limits, because in general we have 2 hours for communication. This is too little. So we want regional centers to be engaged more actively, and they're doing their job every single day, either seeing the family members personally or through the telephone. As for the headquarters here in Kiev, I think weekly we receive about 1,000 representatives of the families. And, again, the work is set up in a way where the NGOs believe that the more meetings we have, the more effective they are. They plan meetings for every 2 weeks, and organizationally we are under pressure. So the understanding is there, the wish is there, resources is the issue. And today the state is doing its effort through the ombudsman for the missing persons. In regions, we are setting up regional centers where they are developing the ways how to work with these families. Currently, they would meet 1 or 2 meetings per week. They are not capable of setting up meetings every day, but we know that in an ideal world, such a meeting must take place every day to support these people psychologically and otherwise. So we are working on this. Unfortunately, all these issues will not impact the process of these boys returning, but communication is important. Once we are not communicating in 2 weeks' time, we understand that this is the front that we hold, and the enemy is taking advantage of this front as well. The information warfare is filled with different special operations, and the families of the missing personnel, of course, are very susceptible to these campaigns, leading to some negative repercussions. It's difficult for us to explain why one person has made it back but another has not. We have to be aware that with all the wish of ours and all the priorities of ours, the justice will not be there in this process of prisoner swap. The government has set their priorities, the state of health, for example, but in parallel, there are other issues and other foci. We are hearing that some brigades don't return their personnel. I have 3 sheets of paper with a number of brigades who have not seen their people return. If we want to be just, the state of health, the number of days you have spent in captivity, these things matter. Every unique case is very individual. But I would like to appreciate, perhaps I have began with a wrong message. We communicate with the military units. We have set a meeting with a unit in the area of hostilities, and our civil military cooperation department met with the airborne assault units, talking about how to best communicate with the families. It's a complex way, and it is complex because of many factors. Sometimes a commander who has information believes that a person has been killed, but as time passes, we realize that the person is missing in action. So this is another issue that is being worked on, and there will be guidelines changes. As for the return from the captivity, I would like to thank the military units and the airborne assault forces in particular, because it is effected through one mechanism, that is swaps of prisoners of war. And to have people swapped, you have to have somebody to change for. This is the matter of the price of the swaps. Once we have the exchange fund, it means that somebody has paid price for the Russians to be captured. So let us be honest, the exchange fund is depleted. And in the captivity in Russia, we have civilians apart from the military. The instrument for the exchange must be there. And if we face tomorrow a question, if the ceasefire is announced and Russia perhaps will be talking about one-to-one swap, and that is an objective reality that we must face and realize that we will not be able to bring all boys back home. Another issue is that the lack for this issue from the enemy side. The coordination headquarters is working on a number of projects to stimulate the interest in bringing our boys back home. And I am talking about our priorities. Again, if the enemy side requests for a swap for 20 or 12 people, and there are altogether 150 people, what kind of priority are we talking about here? So within the instruments available to us, we are doing what is impossible. In spite of the fact that we have declared on a number of occasions that we are likely to achieve some regularity in the exchanges, we see that the enemy side is dragging their feet. We want this to hope. We have reiterated that we are ready to have swaps every 2 weeks in large numbers, but unfortunately, to be open with you and to be candid with you, we could have done it today, but this will not happen today. Specific reasons is something I cannot tell you. We are on the eve of the religious holiday and festivity, a large one, so we are talking about dates here. Altogether, the issue is very complex in terms of explicating how many factors must be taken account of to respond to the issue of justice. And unfortunately, the head of the headquarters coordination center, who has been meeting the family members, it is such a difficult situation. We have so many families. A factor that brings in a divisive issue, because we are talking about the issues of one airborne assault unit. But unfortunately, we are facing a situation where other military units suffer from the same problems, and there are a lot of other units taking this issue on board. And by the way, the latest information event was when the 24th mechanized infantry personnel were exchanged. From the standpoint of our headquarters, we are so happy that 70 warriors have come back, but it is very difficult to explain why the things are happening, and the enemy is taking advantage of this information warfare, and that warfare is effective because it has triggered questions that we hear from the families. In terms of justice, the headquarters are happy that 70 personnel have come back. They were tortured, and from this standpoint, it's an asset because there are 70 of them. There might have been a dozen of them, or not a single one. So it's difficult to be candid with you when this information is being broadcast, because the enemy is taking advantage every informational information event to channel it in the direction they want it. I hate to interrupt, but, well, at the headquarters, we are very open. And there are things we cannot be open about, otherwise the swaps will not take place. Thank you, sir. Olena, can I turn to you in drawing the line under this event? What are the problems? You know, the gap that I can single out. I appreciate your readiness to talk, and the lack of communication is not about human resources. The fact that you will set up regional centers, I see the response of the families as for the quality of the information. Some regional centers are receiving very high assessments, as in Vinnytsia or Mykolaiv. As for the competency and the quality information, and the ethical and moral issues must be taken care of, as Tetiana had suggested. This work must be improved. As for the coordination center, we know that people are tired. Perhaps you should bring in some new people, because we are burning out. There are new families in our family who are just at the outside of their fight. You know, we are talking about a just dialogue with the state. The headquarters includes the part of the NGO representatives. What we saw in November 2024, where you set up the council of the headquarters, a council that must take part in vetting and selecting personnel. So this civil council will show that the just and transparent dialogue is possible when the families are engaged in this process. We are not insisting that families are participating in the exchange process, but we want to be part of this communication. We know that you can't be candid in all the issues. We are talking about airborne assault forces today. We know about the Marines. We know about the Azov. We are ready to support every single unit and their families. So coordination headquarters must also meet us halfway in terms of transparency. And the guidelines for the headquarters stipulate, and you must implement what is implement what is stipulated there, because we know about a case when a mother says, "I will go on hunger strike until my family is returned." We have found other public options that, in a way, I don't know whether the credit should be ours, but that mother did not start hunger strike, but thank God her son was exchanged. So there are guidelines and norms to improve the communication mechanisms. Tetiana, you have a minute. Of course, I appreciate, sir, your message, but we do hope that new mechanisms will be developed in terms of proportionality of the personnel exchanged. You know, we are happy for them, but our family, the family of the 95th Airborne Assault Brigade, you should remember about us as well. We know that you will find a way to see each other more often, and we'll see that our airborne troops will not always be the first on the battlefield, but in the exchanges. One thing to add here, as for the communication, no one will be against the idea that the command and the military units representatives are participating whenever it's possible to communicate with the families. We are engaged in general peaceful rallies where we have our representatives. And our representative is also working at the headquarters. We also pay a lot of attention to personal discourses and meetings with the families at the particular military units. Now, to underscore, the command and all the units of the airborne assault forces are focusing on bringing down the level of social tension and to share as much information that is true and that is open, to make sure that we are on our way to the victory and to make sure that every warrior comes home. Thank you. We have been discussing the issue of the returning from the captivity of the airborne assault personnel about the communication pertaining to this issue. Ukraine Media Center will resume its operation in 12 minutes' time. We'll be talking about the network, the window of recovery. Thank you and stay tuned.